DocTalk is brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, Sure Trace Mineral Supplementation by Timed Injection.
Hi there and welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and today we're going to have a great show. Dr. Chris Reinhardt, who is the Feedlot Extension Specialist for the state of Kansas, is going to join us. We're going to talk about heat stress in beef cattle and feed yards and beyond. Stay tuned for the show.
Jason Lewis. I work here on Division Ranch, north of Strong City, Kansas. We run 500 head of mama cows. We started using Multimin about a year ago. We didn't have any problem with health that year. Didn't have to doctor near as many in that pasture. Just the overall appearance was a lot better. And I liked it so well, we'll start using it on everything.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value. This segment is brought to you by Rotomix, manufactured in the USA and designed for feeding performance in the feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
It's great to have you here, Dr. Reinhardt. Dr. Chris Reinhardt is the Extension Feedlot Specialist for the state of Kansas, and he's a good friend and colleague, and we snagged him today to stop by, and we're going to talk about heat stress in feeder cattle. And it's one of those things that's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how bad.
That's exactly right. Especially here in the center of the U.S., it's going to get hot. It always does.
Yep. So when you're starting to talk about heat stress, because, cattle, they seek shade and they get in the ponds and the different things to this nature. But what are some of the things that are driving heat stress? And I mean, if I'm standing there trying to look at the weather radar or I'm looking at a weather report, what are some of the things I need to be focused on?
There's really 4 things, and I'll add a 5th. The first is obviously the actual outside temperature. Second is the relative humidity. Third is the amount of wind or breeze that's available. And 4th is the amount of direct sunlight, and by reverse, the amount of cloud cover that's out there. But the 5th one is how many consecutive days of really stressful conditions we have in a row.
Okay, so it can be a heat building effect in these animals, not necessarily a one real hot day and cause issues.
Exactly, and the more of these days we stack up one on top of another, especially if it doesn't cool down at night, we can expect some, at very least, very poor performance from the cattle and beyond.
And in the more humid areas as well, we have less of a chance of those animals to recover. We get to those arid climates out in western Kansas, west Texas, and things to that. Desert type, low humidity really cools off in the evening compared to those sticky Midwest summer nights.
As we get from the middle of Kansas, the middle of Texas on east, that's where the humidity really becomes oppressive.
Yeah. So when we're talking about temperature, relative humidity, and wind speed, those are the 3 components that make up what we call the thermal heat index, right?
Correct.
And so as heat goes up, as humidity goes up, we have an increase in kind of like wind chill, the opposite of wind chill.
Exactly.
But how do we use that?
A real easy figuring is I like to stop working cattle when the blend of heat and humidity is really uncomfortable for us as human beings. We can do the complicated formula, but if it's extremely warm and even if there's humidity, but if there's a nice 10-mile-an-hour continuous breeze, the cattle are going to remain relatively comfortable. It's when the humidity goes up and the breeze shuts off that the cattle will really struggle.
So that's when we got to start making some management decisions and things in our day-to-day management systems or processing crews. We're going to have to make some changes. Great points. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Dr. Reinhardt about heat stress and feeder cattle. You're watching DocTalk. We're glad you joined us.
This segment was brought to you by Brute Cattle Equipment, makers of the Brute Stealth Hydraulic Chute. If the chute fits, swear by it. Visit our website for more information. Beef producers need a practical choice when antibiotic therapy is required. More than ever, they are reaching for non-prescription Noromycin 300LA from Norbrook. Specially formulated to produce sustained antibiotic blood levels up to 4 days in cattle, Noromycin 300LA delivers economic, broad-spectrum disease management for pneumonia, shipping fever, pink eye, wound infections, and foot rot. See for yourself why Norbrook's Noromycin 300LA is the practical choice for your herd.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Got cattle? Rotomix manufactures a complete line of energy-efficient rotary and vertical feed mixers for feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Our mixers are available with the patented Generation 2 staggered rotor, the industry standard for feeding wet rations that include wet distiller's grain. Made in the USA, Rotomix mixers are designed for feeding performance that American cattlemen and dairy producers have come to expect. Rotomix, proud to offer a better mix in less time using less fuel.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Dan Thompson from DocTalk, and I'm excited to team up with Vance Publishing to honor some of the youngest and brightest professionals in agriculture today. And you can help us by nominating someone you may know. If you know somebody under the age of 40 that excels in animal production or food animal agriculture, food safety, transportation, or others, you can go to DocTalkTV.com and nominate someone for this award. Help us honor those who help us feed the world for generations to come, and I'll see you down the road.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by Norbrook Laboratories, manufacturers of Noromycin LA, Normectin Plus, 1%, and Poron, the practical choice for your herd.
Welcome back to the show, folks. Dr. Dan Thompson here from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and I'm joined by State Feedlot Extension Specialist, Dr. Chris Reinhardt, who is a associate professor over in the Department of Animal Science and Industries. And we spend a lot of time on the road. We were just out in Scott City. We've been out in different parts of the country. We're talking about heat stress.
It's that time of year, Doc.
I know. And when we start heading into summertime and things like that, I hear people say, well, it probably won't get hot this summer or might not get cold this winter, but guess what? It does, doesn't it?
Every year. And really, there's one of the things we love about agriculture is it's different every day, but the other thing we love about agriculture is it's the same every year.
We just have a short memory.
That's very short.
Anyway, we're going to talk about, one of the things I wanted Chris to address with us today is talk about clinical signs and the subclinical signs of heat stress. So let's start out with the clinical signs. Well, this is an animal that's obviously had enough fun in the sun, and now we're talking it's in heat stress mode. So what are some of the things that you would gauge just looking across the herd?
Depending on which end of the scale you want to start with, Doc, but as soon as we start to see the sides of cattle moving up and down, especially rapidly, we know that animal has entered into, technically the term is heat stress. They may not be, their life isn't in jeopardy or anything to that nature, but they're clearly having to expend energy just to cool off.
So they're going to be panning and I didn't know, I mean, cattle do, that's how they cool their body. Through the panning, but the other thing is cattle have sweat glands.
Yes.
And I did not know that until we were studying a deal on anatomy, and their sweat glands are located in the armpits, just and in the crotch area, just like humans, and so there's that opportunity to cool as well.
That panting, it's like you say, their evaporating moisture is a lot more efficient to get rid of heat than the sweating does, but both are critical.
You bet. You bet. So those are some of the clinical signs that we're going to see in these animals. What about the subclinical signs? I mean, what are some of the things you may not notice, just driving up and down the feed alleys on a day-to-day basis or by your show steers on a day-to-day basis, but these animals what are some of the subclinical signs?
Well, the thing we can do as cattlemen is sort of step outside our own comfort zone and literally say, if I'm uncomfortable, what about that 1,300-pound black-hided animal standing out in the sun all day long? They're probably uncomfortable. Even if that side isn't rapidly moving, we know they're having to sort of turn on some systems within their metabolism to get rid of excess heat. And the thing we need to remember about that as beef producers is that's costing performance.
Sure. So clinically, we could see the animals panting, succumbing to the heat. Subclinically, it's going to be through the loss of performance.
Exactly. They will eat less when they're hot and uncomfortable. Frankly, their body is saying, I don't need a lot of extra energy, so they're going to back off on feed, but then they're also going to burn energy just to try and stay cool.
Great. After the break, we're going to talk more with Dr. Reinhardt about how to alleviate some of the heat stress in these cattle. You're watching Doc Talk. We're really glad that you joined us.
This tip brought to you by Baytril 100 Enrofloxacin Injectable, now approved for use in controlling BRD in high-risk cattle. Baytril 100, right the first time, whether it's controlling BRD in high-risk cattle or treating BRD.
Hi folks, welcome to the Farm Animal Tip sponsored by Bear Animal Health today, and we're going to talk about fly prevention. Why is fly prevention important to you? 2 reasons. 1, disease control, and 2, performance. Flies can take pathogens from farm to farm, whether it's pathogens that may cause disease in cows or foodborne pathogens such as E. coli. And then production. Biting flies and things to that nature have been shown to decrease the performance of the cattle within your herd. So controlling flies, we want to make sure that we get rid of vegetative places of rotten material, cut down the weeds so that they don't have a place to nest, and then you want to use a good fly bait or some sort of control. Work with your local veterinarian to design a plan to decrease flies on your farm this summer. And you've been joining me for the Bear Animal Health Tip of the Day. Thanks for joining me.
Getting ready to work cattle for pre-breeding and calf vaccinations? There's no better time to use a safe, modified live virus vaccine to prevent BRD. Titanium provides the correct equation for BRD with its excellent safety profile and a strong response and long duration of immunity. Ask your veterinarian about modified live virus vaccines and the 8 convenient combinations of titanium for the perfect pairing of performance and value.
Hi, I'm Kevin Ochsner, host of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman and Colorado Rancher. Join me each week as the National Cattlemen's Beef Association brings you the latest updates in industry information and market news. Plus, each week we provide important educational information and features on cattlemen from across the country just like you. And we can't forget our favorite cowboy poet, Baxter Black. Join me for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, debuting Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern, right here on RFD TV.
Dr. Dan here. Whether I'm driving up and down the roads covering the state of Kansas or I'm getting between Riley and Manhattan for my job, I'm driving a Ford truck. I'd like you to come out and visit my friends here at Dick Edwards Ford. They have a truck that'll suit your needs, whether you're looking for power with a Power Stroke diesel, or if you're looking for fuel efficiency with the new EcoBoost engine, they got a truck that's just right for you. They're located 2 miles east of the Town Center Mall in Manhattan, Kansas, and they'll bend over backwards to help you. And I'll see you down the road.
This segment is brought to you by Lalaman Animal Nutrition, dedicated to the development and production of natural and differential solutions for animal nutrition.
Welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson from the College of Veterinary Medicine here with Dr. Chris Reinhardt, who is an associate professor over in the Department of Animal Science and Industries here at Kansas State University. And Chris is our state feedlot extension specialist. And Chris, we've been talking about some of the clinical signs, some of the subclinical signs, but there can be a point in time with these animals where it's an emergency situation. And so what are those animals going to look like that are in dire straits, that really need emergency treatment right now?
I like your word emergency, Doc, because these animals we're going to describe, they're on the verge of potential death. They're doing everything in their power to get rid of heat, but unfortunately all those systems are actually generating a bunch more heat. These are the animals you'll see standing sometimes over top of the water source. They've got posty-legged. They're trying to expand their chest capacity, and their mouth is gaping open, and they're heaving in and out as fast and as hard as they can. Especially big, heavy, black-hided cattle. it's time to intervene and fast.
Well, and you know, we've all seen these animals, and you're right. It's an emergency situation. It's something that you can't develop the plan for these animals when it happens. You need to think ahead to when this is going to happen. And we always encourage that you work with your veterinarian to make sure that you have that emergency plan in place for when such a catastrophe will happen. Now, Chris, what are we wanting to do with these animals?
We've got to get their core temperature down as fast as possible, and that'll most likely involve getting a water hose on the back of these cattle. Secondly, can I get them to shade, or can I get shade to them? Again, I keep talking about black-hided cattle. It makes a huge difference how dark-hided the cattle are. They're absorbing a tremendous amount of sunlight. Again, we mentioned previously multiple days in a row. They might not have had a chance to cool down in between those episodes. We've got to get them cooled down.
Yeah. So shade, water. We've built water baths, get water tanks, get fluids in them, different things of that nature. Another treatment that I've heard recently for these animals, and we had a case with a show steer going down at a fair in heat exhaustion, actually treating them with a non-steroidal and anti-inflammatory. Something like dexamethasone has been utilized in emergency situations as well to lessen that core body temp. But you know, these things are all things that are good to mention. Anything else on these critters? Or
anecdotally, it's good to get water baths out there. Make sure you're getting a metal tank out there. The cattle, especially if they're under extreme heat stress, they're going to want to get in it. And if it's not made of the right materials, they'll tear it apart in seconds. And so all your hard work and money went for nothing. So get a big, round, sturdy tank out there. They'll use it.
We've learned that with the rubber tanks, where they've just jumped in them and gone over the sides. So I think seeing it, getting temporary shade up, you know, are all things. Sometimes, though, getting the ground wet and raising humidity can be counterproductive, so you want to be really careful on the animals that you pick. You're watching Doc Talk. We're going to come back after the break, and we're going to talk about some preventative measures for heat stress. Thanks for joining us.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
This is Agriculture Today from Kansas State University. Well, short pasture growth early on in this grazing season may have heightened the chances that cattle have ingested parasitic worm larvae, which then become internal worm activity that interferes with animal performance. That's why K-State's Larry Hollis is advising producers to be ready with a second deworming treatment midway through the pasture season.
When they check them, they can tell if they've already picked up worm burdens because they'll be passing eggs in their manure. If they are, and it looks like you're going to be able to hold these cattle till fall to wean them and sell them, then it will pay huge dividends to go ahead and bring them back up in the middle of the summer and worm them again.
This is K-State Research and Extension.
Cow-calf, stocker, and feedlot producers know that effective parasite control improves overall herd performance and profitability. Norbrook offers a comprehensive, economical line of pour-on and injectable parasiticides for every livestock operation. Consult with your local animal health supplier to set up a program that protects your investment and brings larger cattle checks this fall. See for yourself why the Noromectin line from Norbrook is the practical choice for your herd.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
Got cattle? Rotomix manufactures a complete line of energy-efficient rotary and vertical feed mixers for feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Our mixers are available with the patented Generation 2 staggered rotor, the industry standard for feeding wet rations that include wet distiller's grain. Made in the USA, Rotomix mixers are designed for feeding performance that American cattlemen and dairy producers have come to expect. Rotomix, proud to offer a better mix in less time using less fuel.
This segment is brought to you by Purple Wave Auction, the easiest, most straightforward way to sell used equipment. Purple Wave, straight, simple, sold.
Welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Chris Reinhardt, and we are from Kansas State University, and we're talking about heat stress. We've talked about signs, clinical signs, thermal heat index, emergency situations. You know, besides ceasing and desisting the activity. So we're going to stop processing, we're going to stop moving cattle during the hot times of the day. What are some of the other preventative measures that you like to enlist in the home pen or that to prevent heat stress?
Well, we talked previously about black-hided cattle. The black hide and hair simply absorbs a ton of light out of sunlight, and if we can get those cattle shaded, especially the big cattle, if we can focus on one area of the feed yard, it's going to get those cattle that are 60 days from market under some shade, and that's usually enough to keep them from moving into mildly uncomfortable into clinical extreme emergency situation.
So shade, what are some of the other? Water?
Water is a big one. We've got to, as you mentioned before, let's prepare for summer. It seems to come every year. Intake of cattle during normal cool circumstances will be about 3 times the amount of dry matter the cattle are eating. During the hot summertime, it's going to be more like 5 times. So not quite double their water consumption during those hot periods. We've got to prepare for that and make sure we're going to have adequate water supply.
And we always said, you know, if we don't have enough water pressure, enough water tank space, things of that, you're going to have to make sure that you get a tank that you can increase the water pressure above ground if you have deep wells. And then some of the other things is if cattle are bunching around the water tanks, you may have to put a silver tank out in the pen and fill it up to get by during these heat stress moments.
Cattle, especially the bully cattle, will hover over those water sources, not because they're needing more to drink, they're simply breathing over that cool air.
It's cooler. What about wind? How could I increase ventilation of cattle that are in a feeder pen?
2 things. Number 1 is mounds. We know how great mounds are during wet and muddy conditions. Somebody smarter than me once said, cattle don't lie. They can't lie. And when you see cattle using shade or when you see cattle using mounds, they should be telling you something. They're more comfortable in those areas. And the thing about mounds during the summertime, even if it's dry, is cattle can usually get up on top of that mound and find a little bit of breeze.
Yeah, the cattle will face the breeze in the summer and they look away from it, put their tail in the breeze in the winter. What about weeds, windbreaks? If
you've got windbreaks in place, I understand in the northern climate where we're fighting that January blizzard, they're important. But in the Midwest where we operate, I'm not sure windbreaks are nearly as important as in the wintertime as not having them and having access to wind is during the summertime.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you being here on the show. You've really brought a light to a very serious situation. And just through that prevention, don't work cattle when it gets hot. Get them some shade, get them water, build some mounds for ventilation, knock down those weeds and windbreaks, prevent some heat stress.
It's important.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. Remember, if you want to know more about what we do here at the College of Veterinary Medicine, you can find us on the web at www.vet.ksu.edu. Remember to always work with your local practitioner. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University. You've joined me today on Doc Talk. We're sure glad that you did, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
Doc Talk, produced in cooperation with Drovers Cattle Network and Bovine Veterinarian. For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. Doc Talk was brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, sure trace mineral supplementation by timed injection.
All the advice I'd give anybody on using Multi-Min 90 compared to any loose mineral or any other mineral that's out there on the market is Multi-Min 90, you'll see a result. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to notice within about the first 7 to 14 days that their hair is going to start shining. You're going to notice that their noses will stay wetter. They're going to feel better. You'll notice a little glow to their eye. You can just tell. Their appetites are better. It's a simple fact. It works.